What's going on, guys? Today we have a SeaDoo Spark in the garage to get worked on. This is a SeaDoo Spark Trixx. It's either a 2022 or 2023. I don't remember which one it was exactly. But the owner actually brought it the other day for a quick check just to see what was going on. He said he tried to start it, and when he does, it almost sounds like the starter is trying to kick over, but not really. Basically sounds like it's a dead battery. But he ruled that out by putting a new battery in, a fully charged new battery, and it's still doing the exact same thing. He dropped it off the other day, or I really should just say, just kind of swung by my house, and I was able to verify it doesn't seem to be the battery. I put a jump starter on, and it's doing the exact same thing. I did connect it to buds, and it was not showing any fault codes or anything. He also, on his own, did replace, let's see if I can get this open, the starter relay. So that is brand new. It does click, and I was able to verify that when you press the start button to start it, the battery voltage is dropping, so there is some kind of amp draw somewhere. So let me show you what it sounds like. We'll wake it up here and we'll try to crank. That's all we're getting. So it's just the relay clicking, or the solenoid, I should say. Everything else seems fine. The injectors, or the fuel pump, is kicking on. Buds is showing that all is clear. So, and since there is a load on the starter, there's only a few things that can cause it. So there's either something stuck in the jet pump, or the jet pump's locked up. The starter is bad, or something's going on with the engine. It either took on water, or the engine's grenaded, whatever. So I am putting a bet that it's most likely going to be something stuck in the jet pump, or the starter motor is bad. The owner is kind of in a rush to get this thing fixed, so he did buy a starter, which is what we have here, just in case that is what it is. But I want to rule everything else out first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the jet pump and see if it starts that way, or at least to see if I can remove the impeller. That way, we can rule this out. If I can spin the impeller, or if I can crank it with the jet pump off, we know it's not a problem in the jet pump area. And then I'll go from there. If it is the starter, I'll show you what needs to be done in order to replace that. So first things first, let's go ahead and get the jet pump off. Jet pump is off, and this thing is spinning completely free, so we know that's not the problem. And just to confirm, I'll go ahead and try to crank this thing one more time. Let it wake up here. Yeah, try to crank, nothing happens. So that rules out the jet pump. I'm going to put that back on real quick just so it's out of the way. I'm also going to check the oil just to make sure there's no metal flakes or anything that would give obvious signs that it's a blown engine, but I don't think that's what it is. So next step is going to be, of course, remove all 8,000 bolts around the body so that we can lift the deck just a tad, so I can get access to the starter. But first, like I said, I'm going to put the jet pump on, and I'll show you what we need to do to remove the top deck. Jet pump is back in. Just do a quick look at the oil here. And yeah, oil looks perfectly fine, no metal flakes or anything, so I highly doubt it's anything engine related. It is most likely just a starter issue, which does happen. So I'm going to start taking the bolts off around the perimeter. These are just a bunch of T30s, and then there's a 10mm nut on the back side. There's some underneath the storage as well. We'll get some of those knocked out. I'm not going to be disconnecting the steering or the electrical harness or anything like that, because I'm not going to be fully removing the top deck. I just need to be able to lift it on one side in order to get to the starter. The starter is on the left side, the port side, so if I can get to that without needing to take the ski fully apart, that'll be perfect, because again, I'm going to be troubleshooting the starter. I need to be able to crank and do whatever, and if I have the top deck off with the harness disconnected, there's no way I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing these bolts. We don't need to remove every single one of them. We only need to remove the ones that are part of the top deck. So from here, we're going to go across And then back here, we don't need to do these back ones, but we will need to take the foot wedges out because there's some bolts under here, and that's going to be holding the deck in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. And just like that, we have the top deck partially lifted. I just have the rear section up. That way you can see we still have the harnesses connected. The fuel tank filler neck is disconnected, but that was just to give us some room to work here. So you can see we have direct access to the starter, and it is looking pretty crusty. So I'm going to disconnect the starter. Obviously I'll disconnect the battery first, just so we don't have to worry about anything there. But I'm going to disconnect the battery, the starter. We'll pull that off. It's very easy to remove the starter. I will just kind of remove I think this is the entrance for the cooling in the exhaust manifold. So I'll pull that off just to get a little bit more room, but very easy to remove the starter. So I'm going to start that and I'll show you what it looks like. I know it's hard to see, but to remove the starter, it is very, very simple. There's just the positive lead that's going on the outward facing portion of the starter motor, and then you have your 2 Torx bolts right there and right there. I always just use a 1/4-inch socket, works perfect. So we just have those 2 bolts, and then the starter will kind of pull out and then slide out just like that. In fact, I have the new starter here so you can see. So the starter's kind of sitting in there just like that, and you can see where it meets the crank or whatever you want to call it. So we'll have the new lead. Actually, it's pretty cool. They give you a new bolt because the other one was all corroded. As you can see, it sees a lot of salt water. And you know, this is an SBT starter motor, guys. SBT gets a lot of good and bad rep, especially with their motors. This is a starter motor. It's pretty basic. So the SBT one was about 1/3 of the price as the OEM, so that's what the owner wanted to try. That's what we're going to give a shot. So if it doesn't work out, we'll just swap it out. It's very easy to do. So I'm going to remove those 2 Torx bits, Torx bolts, pull the starter out, and I'll show you what it looks like. The factory starter motor. Now, concerningly, this is moving. So actually, yeah, I can feel that it's something doesn't feel quite right in there. So I'm not 100% sure if the starter was the problem or not. This one does feel much better, so I'm going to put this one back in and see what we end up here. I'm really hoping that the engine itself is not locked up. This is just one of the things you can do to try it out, of course. And of course, you know, I could have just spun the drive shaft from the back to see if that was the issue or not. But I figure we have a new starter to try out, so might as well just roll this out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I can actually get to the crank gear on the inside if I really wanted to spin the motor and see if it spins or not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna put the starter in and we'll see what happens. I don't know if you can see it, the starter is in, so I'm just gonna pull the flashlight and we'll do a test fire. We'll see if that made any difference. Get this connected. Let this thing wake up and let's see what happens. Starts right up. Just a bad starter. So there you have it. Super easy fix. I forget how much this thing was. I think the knockoff version was $100 or something like that. I don't remember. I know the OEM one for this model is like $300 or $280, something like that. So very, very easy fix. Again, that is the SBT starter. Whether it holds up or not, we will see, but you know, it's a holiday weekend this weekend, so we can at least get this guy out the door knowing that he is good to ride. So that's it for this video. I know it was a quick one, but I know a lot of people have sparks. Bad starters is not common, but when it does happen, it is really not that bad of a fix. Even with doing all the filming and everything, this whole process took me half an hour, so it's really not that bad at all. Again, same thing as any other video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to just leave a comment or send me an email. I do have my email listed in there. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this one.